Let's cross now to Dakar to Ousmane Diallo, Regional Director for Amnesty International for West and Central Africa. Thank you for speaking with us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me on air. I'm a researcher for Senegal and the Sahel at the regional office for Amnesty International in Dakar.
Ousmane, the president expected to speak at 8 p.m. What are you expecting?
I think at least Senegalese people are expecting a clarification about his intentions towards the upcoming presidential elections. As you know, this ambiguity that has been ongoing for at least 2 years has led to massive protests in Senegal and to loss of lives. Lately in June, at least 26 people died in the context of the protests in Senegal due to this alleged third-term bid of the president of Senegal, along with the condemnation of Ousmane Sonko. So after meeting with local councillors yesterday, everybody is expecting President Macky Sall to clarify his intentions towards the upcoming elections.
And if you were a betting man, what would you think? Is he going to run or not?
I think it's very complicated to bet on that, because if you look at the situation over the last years, everything has pointed at his willingness to be a candidate. He has said that the constitution does allow him to be a candidate in February 2024, which is very different from what he used to say in 2019 and what was said by his lieutenants during the 2016 constitutional revisions. So everything points to his willingness and to a declaration of intent to be a candidate in the upcoming presidential elections. But we'll see what he will say. So there might be a last-minute surprise, but I wouldn't be betting on it.
Ousmane Diallo, stay with us. We're going to cross over to our correspondent, Sam Bradpiece, who joins us by telephone. Thanks for being with us, Sam. You just heard Ousmane Diallo there saying most people expect Macky Sall to announce he's running.
Yeah, that very much does seem to be the case. And I would also say most people, at least that I've spoken to here in Dakar, have pretty strong reservations about Macky Sall running again. It's quite rare to see someone speaking out and saying this would actually be a very good thing. This would be a good thing for the country, a good thing for the democracy. Even if you accepted the argument put forward by Macky Sall and some of his supporters regarding the constitutional amendment, which resets the term count, I think most people just believe on principle that it's not a good idea. And remember that Macky Sall, when he was in opposition, gathered a lot of popular support for speaking out against a third mandate for his predecessor, Abdoulaye Wade. That was one of his key selling points to the electorate back in 2012. And so how times have changed. Now it looks like Macky Sall will be the one running for a third term. And so it's easy to understand why there is some public resentment at what you could consider as a kind of blatant hypocrisy.
Sam Bradpiece, many thanks. I want to turn back to Ousmane Diallo from Amnesty International. You mentioned at the outset the 26 who've been killed in the political tensions of late. We have the opposition leader, Ousmane Sonko, asking his supporters to be on standby. How tense is it right now in Senegal?
I think it has been pretty tense since the beginning of this month, following the conviction of Ousmane Sonko for corrupting the youth, because this conviction does exclude him from the upcoming presidential elections. And as you know, since the end of last month in May, there has been an ongoing dialogue between the ruling party and opposition and civil society. And the conclusions of this dialogue were published a few days ago, and among the on the topic of the third-term bid of the President Macky Sall, it was said that this would be a decision that will be decided by the Constitutional Court when he presents his candidacy. So that already generates a lot of tensions in Senegal, especially when we consider that Ousmane Sonko, who is the leading opposition candidate currently in Senegal, will probably be excluded from the upcoming presidential elections. And there is this fear, even expressed by Ousmane Sonko yesterday in his discourse, that the dialogue that has been initiated for a month was a political deal that was done to exclude him from the upcoming elections.
Senegal, as I said at the outset, is a bit of an outlier in West Africa, a country where electoral politics are more democratic than in most places, where people are sometimes voted out by the ballot box. Why is there this constitutional test going on, in your view?
I think these constitutional revisions and amendments and the stress that they put on the republican institutions of Senegal are mainly done by the president of the republic, whether it is Macky Sall or Abdoulaye Wade. Their political ambitions have often stressed the capabilities of the institutions of Senegal, whether it is the judiciary, whether it is the police force or the security and defense forces, whether it is, let's say, the civil society or even informal actors such as the religious clerics. And over the last 12 years, they have been put into test. And I think many Senegalese people would have said that following the 2012 presidential elections, these attempts to revise the constitution would have been put on the side as something of the past, and that the Senegalese democracy would have outgrown those kind of political ambitions and deal makings. But we see that almost 12 years after 2012, discussion is still very much on topic, and we cannot understand the anger and the despair of Senegalese people when we do not consider the role played by the current president, who is trying to have a third-term bid currently in the fight against his predecessor's third-term bid in 2012. And this was stressed by him and by the current Minister of Justice in 2016. In 2019, there have been many speeches, but also infographics of the ruling party that said that the 2016 presidential constitutional referendum doesn't change the two-term limit. And yesterday, when the president met his lieutenants, who are mayors and local city councillors, he talked in a very disparaging terms about those that say that his constitutional terms will be limited, by saying that the Constitutional Court will be the one deciding about the legality of his ambitions.
The fact that other African leaders have used that as a pretext, Ivory Coast comes to mind. Does that offer Macky Sall a boost?
I think it certainly does, because if you look at the current regional environment, constitutional terms were successfully removed in Togo, but also in Côte d'Ivoire in 2020 with President Alassane Dramane Ouattara. In Guinea, also it was the same, but 1 year after President Alpha Conde's re-election to a third-term mandate, he was removed by the military based on alleged abuse of the constitution. And even when we look at the ECOWAS ecosystem, those third-term ambitions have been very much at the center of the topic within the ECOWAS region, but also in the ECOWAS organizations dealing with military governments in Mali and Burkina Faso, because often these countries such as Mali and Burkina Faso have rightfully faulted the ECOWAS organization for not being able to diffuse political tensions generated by third-term ambitions in Guinea and in Côte d'Ivoire. And knowing that President Macky Sall has shown by all acts and discourse that he's preparing himself to be a candidate, if we follow what has been done over the last 3 years, will certainly put a lot of stress on the ECOWAS protocol on democracy and good governance, because even attempts to include third-term limits in the ECOWAS protocol were challenged by Senegal, among other countries.
Very briefly, Ousmane Diallo, we saw in the past when Abdou Diouf was voted out of office, when Abdoulaye Wade was voted out of office, that civil society played a key role in keeping politicians honest. How strong or weak is civil society today in Senegal?
I think civil society in Senegal is pretty strong, but as with many of the actors that interfere in public affairs, they have been under a lot of stress because Amnesty International has documented a lot of the cases of excessive use of force in Senegal, but also violations to freedom of protest. There are other civil society platforms that have coalesced to call for diffusion of tension and also for dialogue between the opposition and the ruling party, but not with a lot of success. And given the increased polarization caused by the loss of lives due to protests, it's even more challenging. But I think we should expect whatever happens today following President Macky Sall's speech, civil society in Senegal to continue to remain as active and as committed to peace and political progress in Senegal.
Ousmane Diallo, many thanks for speaking with us from Dakar.
Thank you.